Hello, my name's Jose, and in this video, I'm going to show you how I set up my steering wheel. If you've never seen this wheel before, it's the Rexing Mayaris, and I think it's the 5th version that they've done of this wheel, and it's the first formula wheel that I really fell in love with. So when I started working here at Ricmotech, this was the first formula wheel that I saw, and just judging by the back alone, the amount of carbon fiber on here is absolutely beautiful. And of course it works amazingly well. There's a lot of functions that I've been able to add to it, and these push and pull paddles are probably my favorite feature of the wheel. So let's get started kind of looking at all of the functions and all of the buttons and kind of where I put them. There wasn't any real strategy to where I laid out these buttons. The wheel came with a sticker sheet, and I took basically what I thought I was going to use and put it on the first button that kind of made the most sense to me. Starting up on this side, what do we have? We have the radio button. This thing is reversed, so it's kind of confusing for me. But the radio button, it's something that's not really used a whole lot. I only use it when I'm running with a league or in a race where they require you to run the radio. So it's not something that gets used a whole lot. But it is there, so when I am running with a league, I can go back in and just quickly turn on voice chat, and then this will then activate the push to talk. This next button down here with the flange, this is the flash button. When you're running multi-class and for whatever reason you need to flash lights, that's what that's there for. It's got the flange around it so that you don't hit it by accident. It's not nice to flash lights at people. Not that I've done it, but you know who you are. Coming down, we have the OK button. This OK button, it's not set for anything right now, which is nice because if something comes up, I still have a free button here to push. And something like when I'm running with the active reset option on iRacing, this is nice to be able to set that active reset run or be able to toggle it back on. Just an example of what it could be used for. Over on this side, neutral. So I wish iRacing had a direct to neutral option, but it's not there yet. So that neutral is the enter, exit, or reset button for iRacing. So to get in and out of the car or to reset back to pits, that's what that's there for. The pit limiter down here, all these buttons light up, but this button particularly will also flash when the pit limiter is active. So if the 3 million other lights that I have going off when the pit limiter is on aren't enough, we have one more here to tell us that the pit limiter is on. And then down here is it's just got a menu label on it, but it's actually I think it's the lap timing black box. That's what it's called. It's mostly the main black box that gets used. I use it for keeping track of how much time is left in a session. So it's just easy to reach, and it's toggle it on and then toggle it off. Next is I think this is plus and minus, and then next and previous. So plus and minus are currently set for the brake bias, and these down here are set to change the different pages on the dashboard. So different pages for different situations. I can then change that right here, and again, the brake bias if I need to make any kind of changes. The nice thing about having them on a button, and initially I just wanted them on a button because I wanted to use them on the wheel, but it made sense because sometimes having them on a rotary or on one of these rotaries, it's actually kind of hard to dial in like one click at a time, especially when you're in the middle of a race and you're wearing gloves. This is kind of sensitive, so you may end up pushing it too far. So having these set up for that, it's very precise, and anytime I need to just dial in one click, I can dial that one click in. Right here, this funky switch, 7-way funky switch. So this is just set up to navigate the black boxes. So up and down, side to side, and then this also rotates and clicks in. So something like fuel or your fuel black box, you need to navigate down to get down to how many gallons you want to add, or you need to toggle it to be able to tell iRacing that you want to fuel when you come into the pit stop. So that's very handy. Therefore, these here are set just for the wheel. So this one is set up for the light brightness, and then we've got the clutch bite point. So this wheel has the dual clutch for the bite point, and that can be set directly on there, so you can control the potentiometer there. The rotaries themselves right now, so these are set up for traction and ABS, and these here are set up for, they have ERS and brake bias as a label, but they're mainly used for when I'm running the Formula 1 car, and we've got all 3 differentials mapped, so that works well for that. And then we've got one more here for, I think, the engine mapping. No, this one here is not set for anything right now, to be honest with you, but it can be set to engine mapping, because on this side I have to scroll through all the different black boxes. There's so many options on iRacing, so something I always love to do is go through the controls and just scroll through them. Sometimes they add stuff, so it's always really good to know where things are and then what's available to you so that you can put it on your wheel. And it just, the idea is to make the sim a lot easier to use and funner to use. I mean, it's a lot of buttons to press, and I don't know about you, but I've been watching Formula 1 for a long time, and it's just super cool to watch drivers playing with the wheel, so I wanted to do that too. Let's turn this over to the back. We've got the paddles. Here we've got the dual clutch, so this is your master and slave clutch. You can set that up as you wish in the game to launch the car. I was using this a lot for the F3. I'm running the LMP3 right now, and the car doesn't require the clutch to get out. I'm assuming that is not true to life. I would think that the real one requires the clutch, so not really using the clutch paddles right now for anything. Upshift and downshift. And then up here we've got probably my favorite part of the wheel, the push and pull paddles. So depending on how you're holding the wheel, if you're in the middle of a corner or something, it's just very comfortable, and the spring on them is very light. So here we have quite a bit of force that we have to put into it. Up here it's very light, which is very handy for the functions that it's been set up for. Back here, this pull, this is doing 2 different things for me. If I'm running in VR, it's going to recenter the VR for me. Unfortunately, the Rift, it tends to like stray sometimes, so every now and then pull it and it gets me back in center. So it's just, it keeps everything level and where it needs to be. If I'm not running in VR, pulling and holding this, it's going to flash up on my dashboard the relative to the car behind, so the gap to the car behind. It pops up just a very small window on my dashboard, and that just gives me just the information that I need. So just the gap to the car behind. And then pushing the paddle away, 2 different options again. If I'm in VR, it's pulling up the in-car information, the in-car black box. Unfortunately, with the LMP3, there's no brake bias information on the dashboard, so if I'm ever making a change to the bias, I just want to know where it's at. So being able to push that, it pops up that black box and I can see where the brake pressure is. And then if I'm not running in VR, pushing this, I've got 3 different, it's called a widget actually. SimHub calls it a widget, and that widget will then have, I think it's the traction control and ABS information. It will then show a dynamic relative, so it will show the gap to the car in front and behind, and that's also color coded, so I don't even have to look at the number. I can see by color kind of where people are, which is really interesting. It's very helpful. And then the last thing that it goes to is just having, I set up a large brake bias indicator on the dashboard, so that's the 3rd page that it flips to in the widget. Over on this side, we've got this pull paddle, and this one, when I'm running any car, this is set up to be the traction control toggle. So if you spin and you're running with the car with traction control, if you just go to dump the clutch and try to spin the car around, it's gonna bog out and you're not gonna get anywhere. So you gotta push and hold this, or pull and hold this, to be able to quickly disengage the traction control, dump the clutch and spin the car back around so that you can get going to where you're going. And then pulling this paddle away, this is only doing something in VR for me right now. So it's going to pull up the relative. Since I don't have the relative information on the dashboard when I'm running in VR, that's where I go to get that relative information. If you're planning on picking up a new wheel, I highly recommend that if it comes with button labels, go ahead and mount the wheel and use it and figure out where you like things before you go ahead and put the labels on. This way you end up putting things exactly where you want them and you don't waste them. That's it for this one. Thank you for watching and have a good one.